Curling fans, as America's best curling teams prepare to compete on the world stage, you've come to the one place with everything you need involving USA Curling. It's the Extra In podcast with Price Atkinson. Get ready for everything that you need to know. News, interviews, points of view, anything involving Team USA forming and the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea for Team USA Curling is found here. It's the Extra In podcast with Price Atkinson and the 12th In Sports Network crew, powered by Isagenix.
Welcome into the Extra In podcast with the 12th In Sports Network, powered by Isagenix. Price Atkinson and my man Joe Calabrese back for episode 9 this week, inching ever so close, Mr. Calabrese, to the Olympic trials in Omaha. We will be there in, honestly now, we're in a matter of days.
Yeah, if you're getting this on the release of our podcast, I'll be traveling out 1 week from today, so I'm very excited. Can't wait to get out there and bring the curling action to everybody at home for the round robin portion of the trials. We'll talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah, I'll be about a day behind you and BA as you guys go ahead and grease the skids and get everything ready and start setting up shop. And I can't wait to roll in on Friday, a week from tomorrow, as this podcast debuts. But again, the podcast, the Extra In, you can listen to back episodes. We got 8 full ones in addition to this one, which would be 9. So a ton of great curling talk, content, interviews, news, notes. We got it all covered, Joe, as we lead you up to the Olympic trials, the United States Olympic trials, Baxter Arena, Omaha, Nebraska, November the 11th through the 18th. An absolutely gorgeous arena, but as we mentioned, just days away. Just let you know, you can listen to us, subscribe on iTunes, go to your smartphone, the Apple Podcast app. Had somebody ask me the other day, what if I don't have an iPhone? Well, if you got an Android, real easy. The Stitcher app is another great place. You can download the Stitcher app to any smartphone, your smartphone, and just search the Extra In podcast right there. It is that simple. iTunes, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and of course, Google Play, and Joe, TESN.US /podcast. You can listen to everything there. Plus, you can sign up for our giveaways right there online, my friend.
Yeah, this week we've got a pretty cool one. The School of Rock giving away an introductory membership. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little while, but it's online curling instruction for beginners to experts. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Hey, Price, you mentioned we go back and check out those past interviews. We've interviewed every team that's going to be at the trials, and I do want to mention, I want to thank Jessica Schultz for filling in for me last week. She did a great job. Thanks so much, Jess, for helping out.
Yeah, had a lot of fun with Jess last week. It was good to have her on, and I said, look, don't go stealing Joe's job, but you record a mean podcast, Jess, and really excited about her new Facebook page that we tweeted out and Facebooked out, and certainly her new blog that you can also check out as well.
Yeah, she's welcome anytime on the podcast. You know that, Price.
Oh, I told her, standing invitation. I told her that. I said, Jess, we got a standing invitation around you have a standing invitation around your busy schedule. You just tell me when and where.
That sounds real good, Price.
Yeah, I can't wait to see her. She's going to, I think, hang out maybe with us maybe Wednesday night, midweek at the trials in Omaha. So we will have a full-time Jessica Schultz time while we're out there. I can't wait to break bread with her and have some fun. But we're going to have some fun here on this episode. Again, episode 9 of the Extra In, presented by Isagenix. And here's what we got. Our last trials interview, Joe, as you just mentioned, we got one more team to go. John Shuster, Tyler George. We're going to talk with the guys from Team Shuster coming up here in the next segment. We're going to get the lay of the land from them, how they feel, about making another run to the Olympic Games. Certainly John Shuster going for his 4th, and just a really laid-back, candid conversation. And I'm surprised we didn't go completely off the rails in that interview, because we were starting to talk basketball. We were just starting to talk about all kinds of things, as those guys love sports, and generally they just like to talk, Joe.
Yeah, whenever you get Tyler George in a room with John Shuster, you're going to find it pretty hard to get any words edgewise. But, those guys are a lot of fun, and they were very, very candid about how they feel about their position going forward in this particular trials and as it relates to USA Curling in general. I think it was a really revealing interview, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people.
Yeah, and I won't certainly spoil anything, but, as Tyler George said, we're not out to just go win nationals. We're not out just to go win the trials. We're out to go to the Olympic Games and stand on the podium. And he was real frank about it, and both of them were. And it was just a really, really great, candid interview conversation that I think everybody listening right now, stay tuned in that next segment, you're going to really enjoy, because these guys, while they didn't have the best of weekend, and we'll kind of transition right there to talk about this past weekend, is pretty much everybody kind of wrapping up their competition schedule before we go to the trials, taking a weekend off before heading to Omaha. But, Shuster and those guys, along with Jamie Sinclair's rink, they were up at the Masters in Lloydminster. And, Sinclair, they started a little bit slow like John Shuster did, but Shuster, he finishes 1-3. But Jamie Sinclair, they make a run, they win the tiebreaker, and, boy, they find themselves in the quarterfinals, Joe. A nice run for Jamie.
Yeah, they did start off a little bit slow, but they make the quarterfinals in the Masters. They wind up losing in an extra end in the quarterfinals to the eventual champion, Jennifer Jones. So it's a pretty good weekend for the Sinclair rink, and they've just slowly continued to put up great results. And I think that their success at the trials, should they be our representative, is going to be directly linked all the way back to February when they won the U.S. Nationals and then went on to that Champions Cup and qualified there. And, they just had a really good season.
Yeah, they, like you said, I couldn't have said it better, as going back to nationals in February and just a springboard to their season, not getting to go to Worlds, but they went to Champions Cup and did well there. And how would you rate, if you were to rate the Sinclair rink, how would you grade them from, I guess let's rate them from 1 to 10. How would you rate their fall season, Joe?
Boy, if I was giving them a letter grade, it might be like a B plus, A minus,
yeah,
probably like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. They've done really, really well. They wound up being the undefeated champion at the Shorty Jenkins Classic back in September. They made the quarterfinals at the Curler's Corner on Autumn Gold. Again, they made the quarterfinals here in this slam. They made the semifinals and a Tier 2 slam earlier this year in Regina. I just think that they've had a lot of success. How that's going to translate into the trials, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I would say, they're 1A or 1B out of these three teams. You look at Nina Ross' team, they have every reason to believe as well. But, I think that they have every reason to believe that they're going to pull this out and be the representatives in South Korea.
Yeah, and you mentioned Nina Ross rink. I mean, you were off last week, but we certainly talked a whole lot about it, and having Nina and Eileen Geving on last week. But, kind of appropriate, we have their interview, and they go out and win the Canadians Women's Classic up there in Manitoba, and they move into the top 10 order of merit with that huge win for them. So where would you put, say, Nina Ross' team on a scale of 1 to 10 with how they played this fall, Joe?
I think you're looking at like an A minus. I mean, they had, they had a rough Tier 2 Tour Challenge slam back in September. They had a rough opening session at the Arctic Cup. They went 0-3 there, but really ever since then, they've built on success after success, and they wind up losing a couple games to Homan in events that they qualified in. But then they go 8-1 and beat Hasselborg in the finals of that Canadians Classic a couple weeks ago. Hasselborg is number 2 in the order of merit. And I think that this win has vaulted Roth up into the top 10 of order of merit. I think she's number 10.
Yeah, and not to be outdone is both Nina Roth and Corey Christensen. I believe they were at the Gord Carroll Curling Classic this past weekend, Joe. And, Corey, like Nina and company, they both go 2-2 there in the Gord Carroll Curling Classic. Say those G's and C's that many times.
Yeah, that's a rough one. But they did wind up 2-2. Christensen, they had actually lost to Roth in the event 7-1. So Roth sort of took care of business in that particular game. But as we remember back to the 2017 Nationals, Christensen didn't make the playoffs, but her wins came against both Roth and Sinclair. So I think they have every reason to believe that they can compete at this event as well. And they may be the young team, but I think that they have to forget about expectations here. This is their chance. There's no reason for them not to try to make this happen for themselves and get to South Korea.
Yeah, and on the men's side, let's pivot over that way and touched on it. John Shuster up at the second slam, 1-3. Not the best weekend, and I don't think that I think they would say we're still going to be fine going into the Olympic trials, but at the same time you do want to have a little bit better taste in your mouth. But I don't think this past weekend really going to have any kind of effect whatsoever on Team Shuster as they get ready to take the ice there at Baxter Arena, Joe.
Yeah, they've had sort of kind of an up and down season so far. They made the final, their first event of the year, and they qualified in the quarterfinals of the Tier 1 Tour Challenge Slam in September. But ever since then, it's been sort of shaky. And while they beat Brown at the Shorty Jenkins Classic, they went 1-3 in Saskatoon. They did make a quarterfinal a couple weeks back, but again, this 1-3 record at the Masters. What I would say about Schuster's team is they're playing a little bit higher level of competition than the other four teams. So I would suspect that their record is going to be slightly worse than the others. But I do think that they have every reason to believe they've dominated at Nationals last year against these same teams for the most part, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't believe. And I think you'll hear it in that interview that we have coming up, just how much they believe. Yeah,
no doubt about it. And let's look also on the men's side this past weekend, up at the Huron Oil Heritage Classic, and up across north over the border. How about Brady Clark making a run to the finals, dropping a close one against Glenn Howard and company? Just a really nice run, falling 5-3. Not for consolation points, Joe, but I tell you, that's exactly how you want to be rolling into the Olympic trials with Team Clark taking Howard down to the end.
Yeah, they have just had a really solid season overall. They've only missed one playoff in any of the events that they've been so far this season. And they've played some pretty solid events. They were in the quarterfinals in Saskatoon. They lost a quarterfinal in St. Paul to Craig Brown. And again, this past weekend, they take a run all the way up to the finals against Glenn Howard, and they represented very, very well. I just think that they have to continue doing what they're doing. They're just a really solid team. When you hear the interview from a few weeks back with Brady and Greg Persinger, you can see that they're in a right frame of mind to make a good run.
Yeah, we should touch on that. Heater McCormick, those guys were also there up at the Oil Heritage Classic, and they didn't make the playoffs, Joe, but Todd Burr found himself in the quarterfinals where they fell to Brady Clark in that one of those quarterfinals, 6-2.
Yeah, you look at Heater, and Sarnia is his home, so to speak, and so you probably expected them to maybe do a little bit better. They wound up 2-3. They lost to Brown. They've sort of had an up and down season all year. They were the Curling Night in America team, so they got a chance to play in that Baxter Arena back in August. So they're going to be well prepared when it comes next week. Look at Todd Burr, and this past weekend I think might have been their first event with Hunter Clausen. It was either first or second event, and they lose to Brady Clark in the quarterfinals. But I think that's a pretty good sign of things to come for that team. They got to quickly figure out how to best use this new asset they have. And once they figure that out, I think they're going to be a team to reckon with.
Yeah, also to mention, too, if I have it right, I think the way it shook out there in Sarnia, that Heater McCormick and Glenn Howard, they were doing battle on that final draw, and I believe McCormick had to win that game against Howard to make the playoffs, and they give up 2, leading 4-3 going into the final end. They give up 2 to Howard in that final end, and that's what gets Glenn Howard over the finish line and keeps Heater McCormick out of the playoffs, Joe. Tough way to finish, but
yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get out of here. When we come back, Team Shuster, Tyler George, John Shuster, great conversation with those guys coming up here next on the Extra End podcast. And also here in a little bit, I caught up with several of the curlers. I was in New York City earlier this week, actually yesterday to be exact, for the 100 Days Out event with the USOC presented by Hershey's right in Times Square. You talk about Olympics, you talk about all things Team USA. That's exactly what it was right there in Times Square, just 100 days out yesterday from the opening ceremonies and start of the Winter Olympics in South Korea. So we'll have that for you here in just a little bit. Conversation, just some fun sounds from there in downtown New York City here, just a little bit on the Extra Extra podcast with the 12th and Sports Network, powered by Isogenics.
Hot Shots Curling Camp is pleased to introduce the School of Rock, an online curling college with training sessions that will make you a better player and competitor. Schoolofrock.ca will be launching this winter. Based on 20 years of experience developing world-class curriculum and staging curling camps in Canada and the U.S., the School of Rock will be using webcasting technology to train and coach curlers from all over the world. Presenters will be world-renowned coaches, world and Olympic champions, elite players, and instructors from the Hot Shots curling camps and other national and international camps. And for a small group of School of Rock VIP members, a coach will be assigned to provide one-on-one virtual coaching throughout the curling season. To enter for your chance to win an introductory membership to the schoolofrock.ca, all you have to do is go to www.TESN.US/podcast and click the Win widget in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Thanks to the schoolofrock.ca for their support.
Welcome back into the Extra Extra In podcast here. Bryce Atkinson here, and we're going to talk with members of Team John Shuster, his rink, and it's going to be John Shuster, the man himself, three-time Olympian, and Tyler George. What's going on, guys?
How are we doing, Bryce?
We're doing good. Come on, John. You're man of many words over there.
No, let's ask us some questions, man.
Well, I guess really going into with the fall here, and what's the summer and fall been like for you guys? Because clearly a short summer, an Olympic year, something you clearly know all about, Tyler. You've been down this road before, preparing for Olympic trials yourself. It's a short summer, if you even had a summer.
Yeah, it was definitely a short summer, especially for me. We got done curling just right before May 1st at the Champions Cup, and had a little break, but was back around the curling ice again. Sarah, my wife, decided to play a summer spiel in June, and then went and played the summer spiel down in Hollywood, down the Blockbuster, and and then we had Matt's wedding the weekend after that, and so we're in mid-July, and before you know it, our first camp was the first weekend in August. So it was extremely short summer away from curling, but I got a lot of stuff done even throughout that.
Yeah.
And it was a very good summer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, July was, I think, the only month where I didn't have anything curling related going on. So, that's kind of time to take care of work and get away from things for a little bit too. But you're never really away from it in the Olympic year.
Right.
You got that around the corner. You're always thinking about it anyways. So everything you're doing in some way, shape, or form is still prepping you for the fall too. So, So I hesitate to say that it really even was an off season. It's just kind of all doing things that are still getting you ready for November all through the summer.
Yeah, and certainly congratulations to both you guys on another national championship, but going to Worlds. I know was it Team Switzerland that just seemed to there was a roadblock in the name of Switzerland at Worlds this year, and you guys had them a couple times. It was just one shot here, one shot there at Worlds, and at that level, you just can't make those mistakes.
Yeah, every now and then you have a team that, for some reason, you just can't get anything going against. I think for me, playing on the tour back, looking before Ty teamed up with us, in our country, that was constantly this guy. So to get this guy onto our team, but I don't think we can bring the Swiss guys onto our team, so we're going to have to figure those guys out. But luckily, we're going to get a chance. We've, see those guys a lot before hopefully seeing him at the Olympics.
Yeah, it seemed like Nicholas Sedin was a guy you kind of wanted to see more of and see less of Switzerland, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's too many guys in the world that would make that statement.
Exactly.
But that's absolutely right. Yeah, you always hear athletes say on TV when they ask them big events, who would you like to see? And nobody's ever really honest about it, but if we were going to be honest, absolutely, we wouldn't have minded seeing Nicholas just because look at the numbers. We've had a lot of success against them for whatever reason. They haven't been at their best against us. Mm-hmm. And I think we kind of ran into the same thing against Benoit at the Worlds. Team gets confident against you, and he played fantastic all 3 games, really. And it wasn't so much that they didn't give us any openings or that they were flawless, but just whenever they needed any kind of big shot, they made them. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap. I don't think any of the guys really felt too awful. I mean, the first game we played them, ice was a big issue.
Yeah.
It was really the only time all week, and they handled it a little bit better than we did, to their credit. And then the other 2 games, every time there was a big spot and they needed a shot, they made it. And you just kind of say, hey, they had it that day, and you don't look back with too many regrets. You just tip your cap and move on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As we're talking with Tyler George and the man John Shuster, finishing 3rd at Worlds in 2016, then 4th this past year. Is there a mental hurdle at all? I mean, not that you need to know that you can compete with the world's best. I mean, you get on the podium in 2016, guys, but I guess unfairly sometimes you're judged by what you do at the Olympic Games. Does that just show you, though, that what you've done at Worlds, look, we can do this here. It's just a matter of doing it at the Olympics.
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that. This summer I kind of sat back and looked and went back through all my World Championship appearances, and you have to look back to my first one I ever played in 2003, where we weren't either in the playoffs or in a tiebreaker to get into the playoffs. So I definitely think getting back to the Olympics this year would I definitely mentally and the way I handle the way I do things is I'm going to prepare differently, because World Championships have been generally successful. Obviously, we're not staying atop the podium, but have been good experiences, and Olympics have been the other way. So definitely going to if we get back to the Olympics, manage that differently heading into February.
And you mentioned different. What is different? Preparing and managing. What is that? I mean, you've been there, and what is it? Tyler, hop in here. I mean, how is the preparation going to be different?
I still have to let John field the Olympic questions for the time being, but I really hope you're asking me again in November. That'd be great. But with regard to just getting ready for world competition, period. There's a whole been there, done that factor for us. I know for me personally, up until 2010, on the men's stage at least, it wasn't something that I'd had experience with, and then got a taste of that with Pete Fenson, and now with this team that we've had. I mean, it's just, you hesitate to say that it's become the norm, but I mean, with being there 3 years in a row, it's a comfort factor for sure. And I personally don't look at prepping for the Olympics any different than I do for the World Championships, because we've been successful on that stage. Obviously the goal is to get the gold, but really all you can do, when you're playing against the best teams in the world, is put yourself in a position where you're there. If you're in the Final Four, you got a chance. And what we've done in prepping for each World Championship, even with the struggles we had last year on tour, our goal was still to peak at the right time. We took a little bit longer to do that than we would have liked. But we still got to that point, and having gone through a lot of adversity last season, even over the course of the last 3 years, but especially last year, it was the best thing for us, because it really showed us, no matter what position we're in the end, we're going to be the team that's there. And whatever we're doing, prior to the World Championships, there's going to be some things we tinker with, obviously, and John will have a lot of experience he can call on for that. But most of the prep that we'll do leading up to the Olympics will be the same things that we've done to get ourselves into the Final Four the last 3 years.
Yeah. This team has been together for a little while now and built out of the remnants of the original high performance. What has this team had to do to, maybe overcome some challenges and obstacles in your way to get where you are preparing for the trials?
I don't know that we ever saw anything as an obstacle. We started off outside of the high performance bubble and played our way into it. And I think the main obstacle at the beginning was to know that everybody now, it's required to put in this work. So we're gonna definitely go and maybe work a little bit harder. I mean, not that it's we work incredibly hard already, but I mean the bar is now so high, and so for us to have a successful season to kick that off, and then basically just build upon where we finished our first season outside of the program together, and then and proceed on with being in the program and having that extra, a few extra bodies and minds around to help us and really, help us, achieve, our best. It's been an interesting process.
I guess obstacles isn't the word for it. It's maybe if or what has this team had to overcome anything?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer because when we first put the team together, I know when John and I sat down and talked about it, it was something that you always have in the back of your mind, like if we ever actually decided to stop beating the hell out of each other and put a team together, what could we do? And people think can two guys like that that have been at that position forever, can they actually coexist? And I don't think that was ever really a question. For us, I think, when you have the same goal, you just do what you have to get there, and we've known each other forever. We know each other inside and out. So I think it was actually more that it was like a comfort level. Like we knew the talent we had starting out on this team. It was just a matter of putting it together, and it was never an us versus HP thing.
Sure.
It was never a, throw a team together, let's see what happens type of thing. It was, well, we know what kind of talent we have organized. If we put the work in, we're going to do well. Yeah. And I don't think that changed when we joined HP either. The personality of the team didn't change any. I think the guys that were involved knew this is our team. You don't need to monkey with this. We know what we're doing here. We're going to look to you guys for whatever help we can get. But our preparation has changed definitely over the last 3 years. But when you're talking, what have we had to overcome? I think it was more outside the United States. Yeah, we know what we had. We've played these teams God knows how many times in the U.S. We know what we're capable of doing. We're not looking to figure out how we can win a national championship every year, Price. That's not our goal. Yeah. Our goal is to get on the podium at the Worlds and now the Olympics. Yeah. So when you're prepping for that, when you're playing in the top tournaments around the world, when you're playing in slams, and you're measuring yourself against the best, even if you get your tail handed to you a few times, it's the best thing for you. And we all did it coming through men's in the U.S. too. But if we're talking obstacles, the biggest ones are the ones that are farthest away. When we're crossing the border, when we're playing against the Canadians, when we're playing in slams. Yeah. And if you do those things, if you're playing against the best, you're measuring yourself against the best, then the U.S. championships take care of themselves. Yeah. You're already prepared for that, and then you're moving on to something bigger. So I think that's something that U.S. teams have started to look at a lot more seriously over the last few years. And I think, to be honest, we've had a lot to do with that because we've been on that stage so many times now with those slams and playing against the best that I think it's showing teams this is what you have to do in order to get to the top. Don't worry about beating the guys in your own borders. Just go and play against the best all the time, and the rest takes care of itself.
And again, we're talking with Tyler George, John Shuster. Certainly they're ranked, joined by Matt Hamilton and John Landsteiner in their fifth Joe Polo. And, John, you're going for your fourth straight Olympics. I know it never gets old, the Olympic experience. That is something that will never get old. But, going through this trials, this pressure, this preparation, is it any different than when you started?
Oh, I think it's much different. It's now that this is our fourth year together as a team, it's actually the longest I've been with four guys continuously in my entire career.
You're doing something right this time.
Well, we did a lot of right stuff before too. Yeah. But truthfully, I definitely, whether it be the guys that we're stepping the ice with, the work we've put in over the body of work we put in over the last 3 years, or even where I'm at in my life, having a wife and a couple kids and seeing the big picture of the world and being in a place where, honestly, of personal happiness and comfort that I know that I don't need an Olympic trials win or an Olympics to feed that anymore, and I think that takes a lot of the pressure off. And I think everybody on our team is in a similar place where they're happy where they're at and content in their lives, and I think that makes it when you step on the ice, you realize we're playing a game, and how lucky we are to be able to step on the ice and play a game and have some fun with it.
Yeah. All right, and Tyler's vice skip, what do you bring to this team? Because having a skip like John, who's demonstrative in his calls, he's confident. There's being a vice skip. It takes a lot to be in that position, especially on this team, because you've got some very strong personalities. But at times it's relaying the message to the front end guys. Sometimes it's firing your team up. As a vice skip. Talk about your role on this team.
Well, any vice skip's responsibilities start with making sure that the team's all on the same page, because you are the go-between. You're the only guy that's consistently talking to all three members of the team. Boy, what do I bring? I don't know. I guess it's just a calm head for the team. We got a a fireball at second and a guy that doesn't speak a whole lot at lead, and a skip that's willing to speak.
I think that's kind of an understatement at lead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard maybe about 3 words at one time from Lance.
When he speaks up, we know it's time to listen. That's a good thing, but that's kind of what we need from that spot too. You hope that 1 through 4 you have guys that fill their role well, that know their job on the team, and that's not always the same thing in every position. Sometimes your lead's the guy that's the talker and gets everybody going, but you don't want 2 of each, or 2 of the same thing, I should say, at the front end. 2 big talkers or 2 guys that don't say anything. And as the third, I think usually you're the person that's supposed to try to give a little bit of everything. I'm kind of hesitant to say, what I think I bring, but any third that's worth their salt should say that they go out there and try to make everything possible so their skip doesn't have to do it. And that's kind of how I see my main job, is just go out, make whatever he tells me to make, and if we need to figure a shot out every once in a while, he knows that he can trust what I have to say. We agree 9 times out of 10, at 99 out of 10, or at 100, usually with most shots throughout the game. But I think we have a rapport when you talk about me and John, that if somebody says something and they're emphatic about it, then they got a pretty good idea what they're talking about, and we trust each other with that. Yeah,
I think I actually lean on him a lot early in ends. I think like I said, we talked about DeCruz and whatever, and I remember playing against him, and it seemed like always we were trying to figure out. We always felt like we had our backs against the wall, like early in ends, and so that's where I think, like now on our team, like as we're playing lead shots and getting into second stones, that's where I'm yelling down the ice and being like, "This is my thought." Like that's where I'm trying to get his input, because I think that's where we're highly successful when we're getting his mind involved earlier in ends, and really getting. Hopefully putting some teams behind the 8 ball, because we got the guys that can make the shots. So
I think especially when you talk about having 2 skips come together playing a team, you don't really take the skips mentality away as the guy running the game, but you don't take the thought process away. So I'm still going through the end the same way that John's going through it. And I still talk to him about the shots that we're playing the same way as I would if I was skipping. Right. But I'm still doing it a way where I'm making sure he knows he's got the call, and he knows whatever he's comfortable with. That's what we're going to do. But we talk to each other about the shots like we're both skipping the same game, I think.
Right. So, ask you about, let's talk about a guy that's not here. Who keeps Hamilton? How do you keep Hamilton in check?
You want to do it?
When he's fist pumping, when he's dabbing in front of the crowd, when he's showing everybody his kicks, and he's hooting. I mean, who's the one that tries to keep Hamilton? I mean, he is his own guy, and he does bring a whole lot to this team. I guess you don't even try and contain something like that. You just let him go.
No, it's it's a little unfair. Matt's you put him on a big stage in front of cameras, and sometimes he goes a little bit crazy.
He loves it. I mean, he
does.
Eats it up.
But that's the thing is, when Matt's doing that stuff, he's playing well. So for us, he's not one of those guys who's going to be showboating around. He's not that D lineman on some NFL team that sacks a quarterback when they're down by 3 touchdowns and goes out there and dances around. That's not him either. So if we're seeing him doing all that kind of stuff at the trials and at the Olympics, I think we'll be very excited to indulge, because it'll mean that he's probably playing well and we're probably winning.
Yeah, it's not something we usually have to rein in per se, because like we said, our responsibilities on the team, we all have roles that we play, and that's always been Matt's role. He's the energy guy for us. That's not something that I do well. It's not something that Landsteiner does well, and it's not something the skip should ever be expected to do. So you have to have a guy that brings some kind of energy like that to the game. And can he get a little wild out there every once in a while? Yeah, but he knows it. We talk about if we need to, and it's really not something that affects the team. But it's something that when the team gets down, that type of energy, somebody that can bring that up even when things aren't going well, is really valuable. And we talked about that when we put the team together, because when you look at your lineup and you say, okay, who's going to be the guy that keeps things loose, and has got the big high five for people whenever they need it, or when they don't know they need it, but they do. And we all chip in with that, but you have to have a source too. You have to have a guy that you look to for that, and that's always been Matt for us.
All right, the guy what's the bigger cult following with you guys? Is it his stash, or is it, I guess now his kicks? What are they going to be this year? The blue Air Jordan high tops that he's epoxied and gotten all doctored up, ready to go.
You have to ask him about it. We let him do his thing with that stuff. And we just kind of go on about our business, All
right, Tyler, you're a big Wolves fan. I know John used to, you got some basketball shoes lying around. Do you guys ever Do you ever lace them up when you're out, hanging out? Do you guys ever play any ball? I know you get in trouble if you do it.
Oh, we're getting pretty old, Price. I don't know. I mean, we actually got to shoot around last week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
There you go.
At the Wolves Center at the Mayo Sports Clinic. So we got a tour around there. We got to shoot some threes and bounce the ball around a little bit. But
Ty's being modest over here.
Is
he may or may not have been the king of our little 3-point shooting contest that we were doing.
That's about all I can do now, though. I can't go up and down the court with those young bucks out there, the Dropkins and the Plizas of the world or whatever. I suppose he's getting pretty old now, too. He just turned 30, for God's sake. But
Smitty still claims, he said it at Nationals, and he said it again this morning, he still claims that he's the best overall athlete in the high-performance program.
That's not true. He may be the best basketball player, but he's not the best overall athlete, and you can quote me on that, no question. But he can kick my ass.
I want to know who is. I want to know who you got.
Who is it?
The best overall athlete? Oh, you know what? I was thinking probably
John Shuster?
No, I was thinking Colin Huffman, but he's not in the program, so I guess that doesn't count. But if you're talking for the trials, I'd still say Colin. And if Colin and Smitty play basketball, I'd still take Colin.
Well, he's got a 8-inch height advantage.
Yeah, well, still, he's a better athlete,
he can dunk if you can dunk a basketball, you're legit, my boy.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Just because you have a vertical jump.
Or if you can shoot under 70 in golf.
Price, I'll tell you what, though, the fact that we can have this conversation now is a good thing, because if you asked in 2001 who the best athlete was out there, they'd probably tell you in no uncertain terms that it didn't matter and to go do something to yourself, But the game has changed to the point now where, if you take a bunch of curlers out on a basketball court, you're going to see some athletes running around out there, as opposed to, the guys that are just kind of throwing rocks, halfway sweeping, and, no big deal. But it's a lot different than it used to be. The game has evolved.
You're pretty active on social media, Tyler, and I know you're on it, but you guys are big sports guys. That's my point. You guys love sports. You like, Minnesota area sports, Wisconsin sports, Big Ten, pro sports. But why don't you guys, when the whole thing is done, why don't you guys start your own Tyler and Schuster talk show? Because I think that sports talk show would be pretty fun with you two guys, because you got some pretty in-depth sports knowledge.
I don't know if people want to listen to us that much. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. We'll check out the numbers from this thing when it's done. But I would do something like that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Ty would be an absolute great human being to have on any sport. I enjoy,
you bring the opinions, which is really good.
I don't know that I bring the opinions necessarily. Generally, my sports knowledge comes from what I read off of Yahoo Sports, and this guy's sports knowledge comes from God knows what he's reading. But I'm telling you, between this guy and his future brother-in-law, hopefully someday.
Yeah.
I remember
get to work on that, Derek.
What trade was it that you guys broke before it even happened? Was that the Butler trade?
Oh yeah, I'll give Derek
credit
for that
one.
The
Jimmy Butler trade.
He
8 hours before it got anywhere.
broke it in the morning. Said I'm breaking the news right now, but then he says, "Well, I don't really have any sources, but it's just I think it's going to happen." And he was right,
and called all the guys who were going in it, how it was happening.
Yeah,
I think I've got my Minnesota source right now when it comes to the NBA this coming season.
Yeah.
By the way, the T-Wolves.
It's my guy then. Yeah,
the T-Wolves are going to be damn good this year. Carl Anthony is going to lead them to a top 4 finish.
They're going to be fun to watch no matter what. We like that. So, hey, you have a platform for these things, though, correct?
We can do some of that stuff.
You're not just doing the curling thing. I mean, you got a little avenue that you can bring us on for those things, too, if we want to branch out a little bit.
I've got sources.
We call out favors. We come in and do these interviews. No problem, Price.
He's not even going to be called by his name. He's just going to be U.S. curling guy.
Yeah.
I'll get some goofy moniker or something like that.
He'll be Ty George, hopeful, Olympian after the fact. But Olympian.
Oh, is that the deal? If I'm an Olympian, I can come on there and talk to you?
You can come on any time. It's just you're going to be Tyler George, Olympian, also Timberwolves expert.
Not just Timberwolves. You talk any Minnesota sports team.
I'm going to have to pay a lot of attention to these guys now, too.
All right.
You aren't going to anyway.
Let's wrap this thing up here. One question, two more questions walking out the door. What's harder, John, winning the U.S. Olympic trials in curling or competing at the Olympic Games, knowing the world's watching?
Oh, it's 1,000 times. Anybody who's ever been to an Olympics knows that just the microscope that they put on the Olympics every 4 years for sports like ours that don't necessarily have that microscope. The Olympics is a completely different animal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's without the competition, you're leaving home for a month, which we do a lot of traveling, but it's not straight traveling, and the last Olympics we had just a gauntlet running into it, and we were out of gas by the time we got there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the Olympic Games is a beast all of its own. But the Olympic trials also, is you get like here it's basically a magnified nationals where you have to play, instead of playing 10 games and playing the 4 best teams and then 4 or 5 other teams, now you have to play the 4 best teams that are with you and then play them again to even get into the playoffs. Where there's less teams in the playoffs, so it's not it's definitely no walk in the park.
Yeah.
Ever.
I can tell you having not been to an Olympics, I don't have a frame of reference there. But when it comes to trials / nationals for something different, or then the event coming after the Worlds of the Olympics, I always prefer to play in the big show.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier for me to do that, and hopefully it is that way with the Olympics. I know it's a totally different ballgame, but if we're talking Worlds and nationals, like, I hate nationals. I hate nationals because we expect to win every year, and that's I'm not saying that's not an egotistical thing for our team. That should be anybody's. That's how they feel when they take the ice. So anything but winning nationals is no good for us. But you go to Worlds, we're still looking to get on the podium. That's the goal. But you don't have to watch somebody else wearing the colors doing it instead of you. You're there. You're at the big show. There isn't another tournament. We're not representing Earth somewhere else. We're playing for the World Championship, and that's it. So hopefully we have that same type of attitude at the Olympics. We get through there and
it's for sure.
have fun with it.
It's absolutely the way you need to take it. It's just the
probably a lot easier to say it too.
When
I'll let you know maybe next year.
You get your toes wet. Hopefully this year we're but that's the part that I hope that now experiencing it 3 times and having somebody on our team that has experienced it as well in Landsteiner will be and Joe. Truthfully, we have 3 veterans and and then I won't have to. Both the last 2 Olympics, I was the only returning person. Well, I guess Jeff was with me his last Olympics, but that was looked at to lead that experience. Whereas now it won't necessarily be the case because Ty's been at the Olympics. Like, he's experienced the grandeur of the Olympics when his sister was there in 06. So we have a lot of experience in and around the Olympic Games now on this team. So.
And that's something we really should mention too, that we have a 5th man that we don't look at as a 5th man. We're as much of a 5-man team with regard to the value of everybody on the team as any team I've ever been on. Joe Polo is not a guy that's along for the ride. Joe is a guy that's along to help his team. He'll be playing with us this weekend in Winnipeg while Matt's doing the doubles here at the Curling Night in America. And Joe is going to be spotting in for a couple of weeks with us too during the year. So and a guy that's got that kind of experience and that level-headed attitude and the Swiss Army knife type guy that you can just slot in wherever you need him to. Joe is he's been invaluable to this team and will continue to be this year too.
All right, one last question real quick. I know out the door you guys are big involved in House of Hearts. It's in March every year. I think you held it. It was in Duluth again this past year. Always in Duluth. Huge money you guys raised again this past year. I know it's something that you guys are passionate about. Just talk a little bit about why you guys are involved in House of Hearts every single year and the great cause that it's for.
Well, you said it right there. We're putting food in hungry kids' backpacks with Project Joy, something that the Plies family has been deeply involved in for a long time, and they've always been passionate about. And House of Hearts itself has been an event that's benefited multiple different foundations, the Heart Association, local health care. But we've now settled in with Project Joy, and it's fun to do something that you can directly see the impact, in people's faces, with the check presentation and everything, and to hear Laura Plies tell us that because of the event, we're able to feed kids for 3 months just because of every kid in the program, just from that one event that we do. And I'd be lying if I didn't say it's a great party. And people come in and have a great time, and it's a great reason to see all your friends. And it's developed a cult following because not just all the good it does, but because we get to get a great group of people together that really enjoy each other, and it grows your curling family. People you might not regularly get to meet, or if you want to play with top players from around the world that you've gotten to see play on TV or whatever, you realize they're just regular people like you, and you make some amazing friendships through it. So there's so many good things that come out of it, but above and beyond all else, just to know that you're doing something that directly impacts somebody's everyday life, a child's everyday life. I can't think of something that'd be more meaningful to me.
Well, I know you don't sleep a lot, but I know you also have a whole lot of fun at House of Hearts. But, guys, Tyler George, John Shuster, thanks so much, guys. Team Shuster, you guys on the ice in Omaha next week at the Olympic trials. All the best and good luck from us here at 12th End Sports Network.
Thank you, Bryce.
Thanks, guys.
Very much, buddy.
You tried different weight loss programs and are still looking for results? I was too until I found Isagenix, and it didn't take long before I started getting the results that I wanted. Isagenix is a complete 9-day or 30-day weight loss, energy, performance, and health aging program. With over 550,000 customers in 7 countries, Isagenix's science-backed ingredients and products are rigorously tested for safety and will help boost your weight loss efforts by gently cleansing and nourishing your body. Isagenix's cleansing and fat-burning system has helped me relieve daily stress and given me even more energy to play with my kids from sun up to sundown. Every day and every week, I'm coming across and meeting a friend of mine that is also an Isagenix customer. My personal Isagenix associate, Sarah Schuster, helped me take control of my health and, most importantly, my life. Sarah walked me through the entire process, answered every question, and most importantly, serves as my personal daily cheerleader. And she can do the same and more for you. Give Sarah a call with the keyword curling at 218-391-1566, and she'll waive your 1-year membership fee. Stop making excuses and start taking control. Let Sarah get you started on a healthier life at 218-391-1566. Isagenix did it for me, and it can do it for you. All right, instead of a roundtable this week, guys, what we're going to do is going to bring you a little bit from WinterFest yesterday. I just got back from New York City, fresh off the Team USA's 100 Days Out WinterFest presented by Hershey's right in the absolute heart of Times Square. Had a blast, absolutely meeting all the curling fans, the people that came up and said, oh, curling, I want to try it, came over to the curling demo and just got their first taste of some street curling there at the WinterFest 100 Days Out. Just all kinds of Olympians, members of Team USA, but members we had from USA Curling, and that would be John Shuster, Sarah and Taylor Anderson, and Jamie Sinclair. They were on site, did media interviews, interacted with the fans, gave some curling instructions and tips. Especially, it was awesome watching them interact, and the girls give some of New York's finest and firefighters some curling tips. So I caught up with Jamie and John first, and then had a little bit of time with Sarah and Taylor from WinterFest in New York City, Times Square. And this is what they had to say about their fall seasons and, you know, where they're at right now, getting ready to go to Omaha, and what they're going to do, more importantly, with this last free open weekend to get a little bit of R&R final prep in before heading to the trials. All right, welcome into New York City, Times Square. Jamie Sinclair and John Shuster, both skips here. How crazy is this? We are at WinterFest in Times Square, the Olympic itch. I've got it now, guys. What do y'all think?
I love it. It's the atmosphere here, the people, the fans, and the other athletes. It's an amazing environment. Just happy to be here.
Yeah, no, it's anytime you get a chance to come and, you know, rub elbows with the other sports best in that our country has to offer and kind of start feeling a little bit like a team, like Team USA. It definitely gets definitely flips the switch for me anytime you get a chance to do that.
Yeah, we're here in Times Square at the Team USA Curling Challenge presented by Oreo, and as we're getting ready, obviously the end is near as we get ready for the Olympic trials next week. But really, first of all, what does this do? Does this give you guys kind of, Jamie and I were just talking, the Olympic itch? I mean, you've already had it, but when you come see all the other athletes, Team USA, everywhere, does this kind of like, oh boy, this gets me excited?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, we're getting to the point in the schedule now where, you know, I'm planning out my almost hour by hour as opposed to day by day, week by week. And, I mean, again, it's you come here and they dress you all up in this awesome USA swag and put you with these other athletes. And, yeah, it definitely makes me realize that the focus that I do put into this is what it kind of brings to fruition, like what it is that we're working for.
See, he's big time in us, having been down to the Olympics, 3 times, Jamie? This, I know, I see the smile on your face. This is really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm beyond excited right now. This is extremely motivating for me, especially leading into the home stretch here. Just a week and a bit left before the trials. But then on the flip side of that, it's like we're getting decked out in Olympic team gear here this weekend, and you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. Like we still need to perform at the Olympic trials. We still need to just go back and make shots. So as much as I'm excited and I really just want to get the Olympic trials started, I can't get too far ahead of myself.
Now, he's been down this road before, but have you felt any more pressure that's kind of slowly built? I mean, you come out of the Masters this past weekend, the second slam. Does it kind of feel, all right, now that that's behind us, it's starting to, every single day you feel a little bit more, or has it just kind of been there and just gets closer and you know it?
Yeah, no, the pressure hasn't been a thing yet. I haven't experienced it yet. I mean, maybe it'll come as the trials get closer, but right now, just feeling confident, happy with how the team's performing, and I mean, we see the other teams competing and putting up results on tour as well. So there's no team to be taken lightly out there, and we're just gonna focus on ourselves and do what we have to do.
All right, John, this is old rodeo for you, old hat, but you're getting ready to make another run at this thing. I know it's exciting every time you do it. We just had played our interview with you and Tyler on the Extra Extra podcast a little bit earlier here in the episode, but just this never gets old, as you mentioned, and this is just a first step in another journey to get back to the Olympics for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild, and we looked at this, and when you decide you're going to give an Olympic run, a go at the beginning of it, you kind of, you commit yourself for 4 years, and it's, the Olympic trials are 3 years, 9 months, in the making, like, of the thought process, and, it's 100 days to Pyeongchang right now, and it's, 10 days to trials, and I think right now it's just, like Jamie said, just, like, excitement at the preparation that our team's put together, and just want to get on the ice and have an awesome performance.
Yeah. And Jamie, talk to us, just coming out of the slam at the Masters this weekend at Lloydminster, you guys get a little bit of a hole, but you rally, you make the playoffs. Does that give you a lot of confidence, a shot in the arm, feeling good going to Omaha now?
Yeah, we definitely had a rough start, starting off 0-2, but I think super proud of the team because we were able to rally and we really buckled down, and there was a lot of pressure on us, and we were able to perform under pressure. So I think that's a big boost of confidence going into the trials. The trials there's going to be a lot of pressure there. It's going to be a heightened environment, so we know that we can perform when the stakes are high. So just feeling good, and hopefully we can just make as many shots as we did this past weekend.
John, give me a snapshot for Team Shuster from the fall. You guys come out of the Masters. I know it probably wasn't the weekend or the week that you wanted, but you're in a tough pool. Just kind of give us a little snapshot as you guys get ready to get to Baxter Arena in Omaha.
We played 7 events, and what we were really trying to do this year is to get in games against the very best in the world. And when you play the very best in the world, you don't always come up with great records. But we had we had a couple really good, successful weeks where it showed, and made the finals of the Spiel and qualified in a Slam and qualified in another top tier event. And this last weekend at the Slam, we played against top 10 teams in the world and proved we belong there. And we don't so much look at the results as we put together. We've done great getting ready for our processes. So when we get to trials, that we're ready to go.
And there's nobody on the men's side, of course, of the 4 teams that are going to be in Omaha. There's nobody that is battle tested, has played anywhere the competition schedule that you guys have, and y'all just haven't played it. You guys have beaten some of the best. I mean, as Jamie has too. But just real quick, talk about your teammates and just the excitement to get this journey started again. I mean, it's already started, but really when we get to Omaha, it changes a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's it's been fun. This is the first Olympics since 2006 with me where I've been with the team, like the same 4 guys for an extended period of time. And it's just been fun going through this journey together. And I think we really, the last few weeks, have been able to have some great talks and really put ourselves in a good place where we're ready to go to the trials and have a lot of fun. And usually when you're having a lot of fun, you're winning some curling games. So
Well, we'll be at Stinson Park for another WinterFest in Omaha in Exarban Village, right next to Baxter Arena. Jamie Sinclair and the women's teams are going to be signing autographs that first session while the men are on the ice. I'll be over there. I hope everybody that's going to be in Omaha will join us. But just real quick out the door, your last 3 weekends, guys. What do you do this last weekend? I mean, you've been on the road, been all over the place. What are you going to do with your open weekend?
What? Well, my team's played 5 weekends in a row leading up to right now. So when I get home on Thursday, I'm definitely gonna do a little R&R, probably sleep for a full day, and then after that, really start to get mentally and physically prepared for the trials. Get some good practices in, get some good team practices in, and just building that momentum for the trials.
I'm going deer hunt, man.
What a way to blow off steam, going to deer hunt and then kick back on the couch for James.
I mean, in all seriousness, it's just it's a tradition that we have, and I'm gonna be able to practice all the way up until Friday night, and then go spend Saturday out in the woods with family and friends that I've been doing it for a long time with, and then on Sunday morning for another hour or two, and then head back and get back in my routine that I planned out for. So I'm gonna be literally gone from Duluth for about maybe 36 hours, but it's gonna be it's always fun to be able to do that with my dad and brother-in-law and some really close friends of my family, and that's the kind of stuff that just always reminds me that curling's just a game that we get to play.
Well, Skip, Jamie Sinclair, John Shuster, thank you guys so much for the time here at WinterFest in Times Square, and thank you so much for the time on the Extra Extra and podcast this fall. We've had a lot of fun with you guys. Just can't wait to see you again on the ice for just a few days. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Preston.
Thank you.
All right, back here on the Extra Extra and podcast, and we are here in Times Square WinterFest, and boy, we're having some fun, and this time here talking with Taylor and Sarah Anderson from Team Christensen. What is this experience like, guys? I'll say this is really cool when you guys are out there doing the curling and interacting with everybody. How awesome and fun is this?
It's so much fun teaching people how to curl. People just keep lining up to learn, and it's awesome seeing people interested in the sport.
Sarah?
Yeah, we're getting great feedback. Everyone's like, oh, I watch it all the time on the Olympics. I love this sport. I've always wanted to try it. So it's great to meet these people right in the middle of Times Square and be able to teach them how to curl.
So for you guys as some of the younger athletes here, what is this like, you've competed at World Championships before, you've won nationals, but, get a taste of this Olympic experience here in Times Square, New York. What is this like for you guys?
It's definitely inspiring seeing the other athletes that are 2-time Olympians, 3-time Olympians, and it's really cool to hear their stories and see how far they've come and what we can learn from them.
What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere here. We've been hanging out with all the different Winter Olympic sports going on, and it's just everyone's so supportive. Everyone we see is asking of us, oh, when's your trials? Good luck. I'm going to be cheering for you from all across all the winter sports.
So what, with trials obviously just days away now, we're in the final throes, less than 2 weeks to go. We're in single digits. Does this kind of get you a little bit, fired up to get to Omaha after a long, grueling fall to get ready for this?
Yeah, I think, even before this, we cannot wait to go to trials. We cannot wait to finally, lay it all down on the ice. And I think we're really excited to compete. And especially from a weekend like this, it's really getting us in the mindset of where we want to be.
What do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, definitely ready to play, and we're going to trust our training and be confident out there and show people what we got.
Because this has been a long, I say fall in air quotes, but this really began back in July with obviously the Olympic year we're in now. Does it feel like this thing has been going forever, like it's kind of March in your bodies, like in a normal curling year?
Yeah, it definitely feels like season's already near the end, but we're just beginning really. So it's what we put all the training in for, and we're ready for the long season.
What's been the highlight for Team Christensen so far this fall? What has really stood out, whether it be, a different spiel, what maybe an interaction you guys had, a training weekend? What's maybe something that has stood out that has really, been a highlight of this fall for you all?
What I think is really a highlight of this fall is just how our team has come together and really trust each other. I feel like we've made up a lot of ground this year, just having Phil Dropnik as our coach, and we're really coming together and really liking where we're headed, and I think we're just in a really good, close-knit, tight, excited team. And I think that's just been weekend after weekend. We're doing a lot of spiels this fall, and that's really all developed over the weekends. So I think we planned our schedule accordingly, and it's going to hopefully pay off.
Taylor?
Yeah. We've definitely worked really hard this season. We've come together, and we think we're going to be ready for the trials.
All right, you've got a married woman on your team now. What is that like? Because Jenna obviously ties the knot. Is she running home? I mean, she's at the gym, I'm sure, as long as you guys are. But having a married, do y'all give her a hard time in a little bit at all?
No, she's just as dedicated as she's ever been. Doug supports her so much through curling. He's always following the scores when we're gone, and he's going to be at trials supporting her. So it's really just, a great step in her life, and, she's a great athlete. So I think they're all excited to see this.
She was pretty good doing her Twitter Q&A the other day. I thought she was hilarious when she took over the USA curling. What did you guys think? Give her a high mark?
Yeah, that's naturally Jenna. I give her a 5 out of 5. She's always a funny character to have with you, and I definitely think she did a great job representing well.
All right, we got one. Ask Jamie and Shuster. You got one open weekend, right? I mean, this is your last free weekend. You guys have been on the road. I mean, it's been a grueling fall. What are you going to do with this kind of last open weekend to relax, chill? Are you going to get manis and petties, or is it going to be binge watching TV? Is it going to be sleeping 24/7? What are you going to do with this last free weekend?
I'm going to still be practicing and working out, but Saturday night I think I'm going to probably make it to the Wild game.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, definitely. We've scheduled practices for this weekend coming up in the normal routine. But I'm actually going to the Wild game on Thursday to start my weekend early. But this weekend, I think we're going to have a girls' night on Friday night and just, catch up with our roommates and just have a nice low-key weekend.
How has it been? And I guess that's a quick way. I'm glad you brought that up. Now in the Twin Cities, you've been there for a little while, but is it starting to be like home there in Minneapolis, St. Paul, or is it, you long for Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I definitely miss the East Coast, but Minnesota's becoming a little bit more like home slowly, and I'm trying to not make it, but I definitely enjoy it. I like being there, and made some good friends, so it feels like home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy Minnesota more in the summertime than I do in the winter, but good thing that we curl so much so I'm not even barely home in Minnesota in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So it's working out pretty well.
Awesome. Taylor, Sarah, just pleasure to have you guys on the Extra Action podcast. Sarah, we had you earlier. I'm glad we get to bookend it now with Taylor, so we get both the twins on with us this fall, but can't wait to see you guys here next week in Omaha. It's go time, guys.
Yeah, it is. We're ready to go. We'll see you there.
Well, thank you guys for doing this. Can't wait to do it again. We'll see you there.
Thank you.
All right, that's John Shuster, Jamie Sinclair, and the Anderson twins, Sarah and Taylor. Had an absolute blast with the four of them yesterday in Times Square at WinterFest. Just all the athletes and, the Team USA gear and seeing everybody excited, ready to embark on this journey now 99 days away from the opening ceremonies in South Korea as of today being Thursday, November the 2nd. So a lot of fun. Just thank you to USA Curling and Team USA for the opportunity for me to go up there and participate in the curling demo event. And, we'll be doing it again at Stinson Park in Omaha, Sarbin Village on Saturday, November the 11th. WinterFest going to run from 11 to 5 p.m. there. Going to have all kinds of cool interactive stuff. Team Christensen, Team Sinclair, Team Roth will be there signing autographs, I believe, starting at 1:30 on Saturday, November the 11th. Come over and check us out there in Sarbin Village, just across from Baxter Arena. But when we come back, Joe and I are going to put a bow on this thing and start turning for home as we get ready for the Olympic trials next week. We'll be right back on the Extra Extra podcast.
Whenever you travel for bonspiels, business, or other travel, please remember to go to TESN.US and click on the Expedia banner. When you book your travel through the banner on TESN.US, a small portion of that booking goes to TESN affiliates. If you like TESN, please remember to support our affiliates by clicking on the Expedia banner when you travel. Thanks for supporting our affiliates.
All right, putting a bow on this episode 2 of the Extra Extra and podcast with the 12th End Sports Network, powered by Isogenics. Special thanks to Richie Ruinen, Jamie Sinclair, and Vicky Persinger this week. And especially that last roundtable segment. Just great conversation there with Jerry, Joe. A lot of here that we got into on this episode of the Extra Extra In. It's just a setup for what we've got coming up the rest of the fall as we lead up to the U.S. Olympic curling trials in Omaha.
Yeah, we had a great discussion with Jerry and 2 terrific interviews, and it's just a preview of what's to come over these next few weeks. But Price, I don't think you were really hoping to get away from that Bills-Panthers talk, were you?
It's funny.
Both teams 1-0, and I think what I would like to do is a friendly wager with you. And what I'm thinking is if the Bills go into Carolina and somehow beat the juggernaut that is the Carolina Panthers, I should get some sort of barbecue. But if for some reason the Panthers, take my little pathetic Buffalo Bills and pound them into the sand like they ought to, I owe you some chicken wings. What do you think?
I think what you owe me is one of those 12th End Sports Network jerseys that you and BA and Sean Murray, I've been angling for one of those. I'm hoping maybe one of those might be under my Christmas tree, also known as the curling trials in Omaha coming up in November. But I think I can do that. I think that some dinosaur barbecue from up there in upstate New York.
Oh, wow.
I've always wanted some dinosaur barbecue. I've never had the chance to dive into it. I got to compare it to what we've got down here. But everybody I've talked to, Jim Boeheim, the head coach at Syracuse, told me one time, he said, it's the best barbecue you'll ever have. And I said, Coach, there's no way. I'm come from the South. We own barbecue down here. He said, yeah, don't knock it till you try it, son. But, yeah, I think we can definitely do that.
So what's the deal?
I was going to tell you, I didn't think we could be friends between now and kickoff on Sunday at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. But I don't know. It's a budding rivalry because of everything that's gone on in the offseason between the Bills and the Panthers. Maybe some of our listeners may have a clue what we're talking about. But I got in Cam we trust is the confidence I got, Joe.
Well, I believe that you guys should be the heavy favorite. We will see how it turns out, but I'm excited. The Bills got off to a good start, and that's always a good thing. We'll see how it winds up.
We both want 2-0 this weekend. Somebody's going to get it. I guess actually no, it's not a guaranteed. Unfortunately, in the NFL, they allow ties, which I think is sacrilege in any sport outside of soccer. Honestly, I think ties in soccer stink too. All right. Just to let everybody know how you can listen, one more time, the Extra Extra In podcast. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. You just pull up your smartphone right there. Apple Podcasts, the app, search the Extra Extra In. It's that easy, Joe. It really could not be easier, and especially, how about our homepage, TESN.US/podcast, the 12th End Sports Network, your home for USA curling, web streaming, all kinds of events with clubs around the country, but it's also the Extra Extra In podcast right there on the homepage.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That gives you all those notifications of what's going on with the website and the podcast all year round. And we'll see you then.
Yeah, absolutely. What's ahead next week? Let us tell you real quick. Conversation with a couple members of Team Clark. Brady Clark and Greg Persinger. We'll go from one Persinger to another as we'll talk with Greg Persinger and Brady next week on the Extra Extra In podcast episode 3. So a good conversation, a lot of things you'll want to hear, a very frank and honest and open Brady Clark, which we will bring you next week. Really good stuff from the two of them. But, Joe, one more, plug this giveaway again because the Monica Walker jersey, to me, is something I want to get into this contest on.
Yeah, Curling Night in America is starting back up on October 10th, and we're real excited about how the event showcases some of those teams that are battling for those Olympic spots in November. As part of that excitement, we're giving out the opportunity to win a signed Monica Walker jacket from that Curling Night in America production. She's the lead for Team Sinclair in the 2017 USA Curling National Champions. So if you want to enter this drawing, all you got to do is go to TESN.US/podcast and enter by using the widget on the upper right-hand corner of the page. This is a one-of-a-kind item and only available to our listeners. We're going to announce the winner next week.
Well, I'm going to register, and if I don't win, I know it's not rigged. I'm going to have to beg Monica to get my own when we see her at the trials. All right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate all our listeners tuning in to the Extra Extra In podcast here. Just can't do it without you. It is all about our listeners. Again, if you like it, rate it, share it, review it, all those great things. It's all about you. We need your help to spread the word. Appreciate what you all do and appreciate you taking the time to listen here on the Extra Extra In podcast. Can't wait to be back again here next week, Joe. More great stuff. We'll see you then.
Thanks for being with us on this edition of the Extra Extra In podcast with Price Atkinson. Follow Price and the 12th End Sports Network crew on Twitter and Facebook to stay up on our weekly contests, giveaways, and guests for upcoming episodes of the Extra Extra In podcast, powered by Isogenics.